There was once a man living in a peaceful village with a few others around him. His life wasn't anything special. If anything, it was the literal definition of the word ordinary. He didn't dislike the fact that his life was pretty boring. He had friends, neighbors, and a family that loved him. There wasn't much he wanted from life. He was satisfied with how things were. He would work on the fields in daytime and help his family in the house at night. There was nothing more left to be desired. There was no need for change in this peaceful system. Simply keeping the status quo would be enough. But change did come, like a natural disaster with no reasoning behind it. As he was going back to his home from the fields one day, he was attacked by the villagers, the people he had lived together with for his entire life. His neighbors, his friends, his family, all of them were attacking him. He didn't even understand why any of this was happening at the time. He didn't even have a chance to ask why any of it was happening. The people that he had always talked to every day for the duration of his entire life were treating him like he was the worst human alive. He was beaten down relentlessly, and as he was beaten down, he heard the voices of the villagers talking to him. They called him a demon, and chained him to the tallest mountain overlooking the village. They had chosen him as the greatest demon that ever lived. There was no reason why he was chosen. If it was because of something he did wrong, he might have been able to understand it. But there was no reason any of this was happening. It was nothing more than a natural disaster. Humanity itself had wished for this to happen, and they chose someone with no real reason behind it. A completely ordinary person, chained down as the embodiment of all of the evils in the world. From that point onwards, the boy's name didn't matter. From the second he was chosen, he was no more than Angra Mainyu, the Persian god of all things evil. The will of heaven had chosen him as the greatest demon in the world, so they carved every curse onto his body and tortured him relentlessly. As they tortured him, they felt their own sins being washed away. After all, it was the demon's fault that they had evil thoughts inside their heads. So as long as they tortured the demon, they would be cleansed of all evils. As long as someone was there to carry all of the sins of mankind, no one else had to lift a finger. They cut up his body limb from limb and forced him to look at the village that chose him as the demon. As his last limb was cut by the person that he used to call his own father, he stopped hating the world. Hatred wasn't a feeling anymore, it was a function. All that was left was hatred. Angra Mainyu was all that was left anymore. The boy who had his name erased from history ceased to exist completely. It was only a feeling of complete hatred left behind. As he overlooked the village, he saw countless generations come and go, but he did not care. All he could do was hate, so hate he did. With his hatred, he saved countless humans by becoming the source of all evils in the world. He saved and saved. He simultaneously hated humans, but also saved them, just like how humans hated him, but were grateful for his existence. At some point, he managed to forgive all of humanity while still hating them. He affirmed all of their evil actions. Through this, Angra Mainyu became a twisted heroic spirit, the one who saved everyone with his hatred. The nameless boy that later came to be known as Angra Mainyu had a wish deep within his heart, a wish that no one knew about. He wished for a happy life, a completely ordinary one. He didn't wish for revenge or destruction. Those feelings had been long gone as thoughts from his head. They were merely a function, but not his own desires. So, with his wish, the servant Avenger created a new world. A world where everyone managed to be alive. A world where exciting things didn't happen. A world that is completely mundane. He wanted to live as someone else and not as the great demon for once in his life. So he took the people of the Fifth Holy Grail War and created a false reality with them. and turned himself into the red-haired heroic protagonist of the old story. A hero of justice, the total opposite of all the evils in the world. A boy that wanted to carry the burden of the entire world on his own shoulders. Someone that Angra could never dream of becoming. Maybe they were more similar than he initially thought, but nevertheless, he wanted to spend time with others without feeling hatred. So he did. He drank tea and ate snacks together with Saber, slept together with Ilya in the Ainsburn castle, messed around town with Rin, went on a dinner date with Sakura. This was all that he could ever wish for. It was almost like he had returned to the times before he was a demon. For the first time in his life ever since he became the way he is now, he had fun. But this reality could not last forever. Even if it could last forever, would there be much point in stalling? Ending and not continuing are fundamentally different things. One of them has a purpose for existing, the other is just a meaningless state of existence. So the peaceful dream that he was having has to come to an end. With the day coming to a close and the sun going down, the moon has to shine brightly in the night sky. With the moon shining in the night, illuminating the room slightly, Bazette Fraga Mikremitz wakes up from a long dream, and she remembers the man that was chosen as the greatest evil in the world, recalling everything that happened to that man as a distant story told to her by none other than her own servant. She comes from a lineage of impressive magi that have protected a real noble phantasm for centuries. When it comes to skill, they are probably more powerful than a lot of the magi from the clock tower. She herself in particular is a monster in combat, a human being that can even match a heroic spirit in battle. She doesn't lack any power, but she is weak. She is extremely weak to the point that she can break just by a small touch. In the contrast to her ridiculously strong body, her emotional state is a mess. Bazette Fraga Mikremitz hates herself. She hates her own existence more than anything in this world. And because of that, she tries her absolute best every day. But she still loathes herself. She can't be proud of anything she does. No one approves of her actions. The Mages Association made her a sealing designation enforcer because of their jealousy and to keep her far away from the clock tower. Her own family dislikes her because she disregarded their wishes and went out of town to become a proper magi. There is no one that will approve of Bazette's existence, so she desperately tries to prove herself constantly in everything she does. That's why she wanted to fight in the Holy Grail War, to prove to everyone that she is worthy of their praise. A master that desires approval above anything else, and a servant that is disapproved by all of humanity. Both of them might have been similar people back in the past, but the servant stopped searching for the light at the end of his tunnel long ago. Or so he says. No one will ever praise the greatest demon that ever existed, a god of all things evil. There is no salvation for Angra Mainyu, not in reality at the very least. That's why he wished for the existence of this hollow world, a world where he didn't have to be Angra Mainyu. As much as the servant Avenger says he gave up on hope, he still wished deep within his heart for a small light. The exact same thing can be said for Bazette. After all, if this hollow world was created only out of Angra's wishes, there wouldn't be a Holy Grail War. But because of the fact that he granted both his own and Bazette's wishes, the reproduction of the Holy Grail War and this hollow world became the way they are. Angra seeking the love he had back when he was still just an insignificant villager, the simple beauty of the mundane times where nothing much happened. That is what the greatest evil in the world wished for. And the hard-working mages, Bazette, who was still adamant about proving her worth to the others, wished for the continuation of the Holy Grail War that she never got the chance to participate in, to make the man he came there for proud, to finally be accepted. Angra granted her wish because he saw himself inside of Bazette, an awkward, insignificant person that only wants salvation. But unlike him, Bazette still had a chance in life, a chance that could be found inside reality. But there is no salvation for Bazette in the world created by Avenger. Her salvation lies elsewhere. That is the story of Ataraxia. Everything inside it is fake. It's all fake, yet they still exist. As the moon rose in the night sky, there would eventually come a time where it would fall again. Not continuing and ending are not the same thing. One clings to existence, thinking that salvation exists there. The other accepts the end, hoping that there would be a new sunrise afterwards. So with that, our story comes one step closer to a close. All evils of the world. Those words invoke a feeling of hatred within humans. It's as natural as the desire to eat. Evil things need to be punished, they need to be condemned, looked down upon, shunned, and hated. It's a simple logic that doesn't even need to be explained. Even a kid can understand why evil things are bad. But what if there was someone out there that forgave every evil deed? Someone that found salvation inside these evil actions? A young girl with silver hair and glowing eyes of yellow wearing a nun outfit. She isn't like anyone else, that's for certain. Her parents were abnormal, just like her, so it's not much of a surprise that she turned out the way she did. She was a girl that lost her mother shortly after her birth, and her dad left at the same time her mother did. She had no one that loved her, no memories of anyone ever caring for her. Afterwards, she was taken in by the church. Even there, she was not shown love, because her mother had committed suicide, and suicide is the greatest of sins. Only a sinful child can come from a sinful mother like that. The church did take care of her, but they were harsher than any other place that she could have gone to. She was seen as a monster because of her mother, and she had a strange power that allowed her to be used as a detector of sorts for demons. So from an early age, she became a tool for the church. She wasn't taught anything that wasn't necessary to hunt demons, so she wasn't able to read or write. She continued to hunt demons and to use her body as a tool for others. She could have quit at any moment. No one was forcing her to be used like this. But surprisingly enough, she had no complaints about it. Perhaps something within her was broken because of the things that she had to endure. Or she was defective from the moment of her birth, just like her father. Whatever the case might be, Caren Hortensia had no complaints about being used by others. She saw herself as a tool from the beginning, so why should it be bad for others to use her? There is no meaning in a tool other than to be used. If she can manage to help others, even if it's by being a tool, wasn't that a good thing? She was quite similar to a certain red-haired boy in that regard. Along with that, Caren forgave every bad deed in the world. She accepted all of them. She will accept all of humanity's evils. It was her job as a follower of the Lord to let people get their evil urges out. She found salvation in being tormented. She accepted and prayed for people while also telling them to repent for their actions. She condemned evil while finding solace within it. She is the total opposite of the greatest demon that ever existed. One accepts the evils within humanity while condemning them, while the other hates humanity while approving of their misdeeds. One of them chose to be a tool for others out of her own will, and the other was forced to become a tool for humanity against his will. They are fundamentally incompatible. Angra can't help but despise the way Caren thinks about her life, and Caren has to condemn the very existence of Angra. But even through this, they manage to understand each other more than anyone else in this entire story. The only person in this hollow world that will accept Angra as the way he is Caren. He says as much himself. He needed to act like someone else around everyone, yet he feels that it's appropriate to just be himself around her. Both of them manage to be themselves around each other. Because Caren will always guide Angra, even if it means that she has to suffer. It's the job of a shepherd to guide a lost lamb. Well, Angra isn't really an innocent lamb, but he is lost, and through that, she will find happiness. Their relationship is truly a unique one. As he thinks about all of these thoughts, the staircase reaching into the bright moon is slowly coming to an end. At that moment, Angra Manu realizes through everything that had happened between them, he does feel a bit attached to the silver-haired beauty who's climbing together with him. And with that, the last piece of puzzle is in its place. The mural is complete, and the last roll of film is attached. The moon is once again shining beautifully in the night sky, when our story finally comes to a close. Up until now, I have been referring to the world created by Angra Manu as a fake. But in reality, there is only one person that is fake. That is Angra Manu himself. He was nothing to begin with, so there is no way that he can exist as himself. This world was not fake, but it certainly was hollow. Salvation for his master does not lie in a hollow world. This hollow world can only be a pleasant place for someone that doesn't exist. For real, breathing people, their salvation lies in reality. Even if he is happy here, even if this is all he ever wished for, he still has yet to grant the wish of his master. It's the job of a servant to help their master after all. So Avenger climbs the staircase leading to the false Holy Grail. As beautiful as the things he experienced were, he knew that they would not last forever. As long as there is a wish he needs to grant, Angra Manu can't let this beautiful scenery stop him. The peaceful dream here is nothing but a dream. The only person who will experience it will eventually return to his home of nothingness. So, as his last task, he completes the Holy Grail, letting Pazette go back to the real world where her salvation lies. She still has a chance to live a good life, unlike him, so he himself returns to a black void where he came from. The doors of happiness were closed for him long ago, but he still feels good about this peaceful dream that he managed to have. Even if it was just a dream, the feelings he had were surely real. And as long as he managed to save someone, he can call himself a hero of justice.